Hello student, in this video I am going to discuss about mechanism and regulation of breathing. Mechanism and regulation of breathing. In my last class I have already discussed about the respiratory system of human, and we have already seen that the respiratory system of human, which is comprises of two portions. One is the air conducting portion and another is the gaseous exchange portion or the respiratory region. Okay, so the unit of gaseous exchange, or the unit of lungs, which is the alveolus. So look at this picture. This is the single alveolus. So this is the single alveolus. It is the sac-like structure, okay, and the wall which is lined by flattened squamous epithelium. So this is the flattened squamous epithelium. But such flattened squamous epithelium, along with this flattened squamous epithelium, another type of cells also present. So flattened squamous epithelium, here is the black in color, and another special type of flattened squamous epithelium also present, red in color. So the inner lining of alveolus by two types of cell, the type 1 and type 2, and these cells are known as the pneumocytes. So the type 1 pneumocytes, another is the type 2 pneumocytes. Type 1 pneumocytes, this is the flattened and squamous epithelium, but the type 2 pneumocytes, which is relatively larger than the type 1 pneumocytes. Here type 2 pneumocytes is very important because type 2 pneumocytes which produces detergent like substance, and such detergent like substance which is known as the surfactant. This is known as the surfactant. So look at this here. This is the surfactant. So the type 2 pneumocyte, it produce detergent like substance known as surfactant, and such surfactants, it performs different function. It help for the killing of bacteria. It helping for the increasing of surface tension. Okay, so the presence of surfactant, the surface tension of such pneumocytes become 10 times higher than the without secretion of surfactant, without presence of surfactant. Okay, so the presence of surfactant which increase the surface tension and which is helping for the exchange of gases, and such surfactant, it also help for the transport of carbon dioxide as well as oxygen. So what actually surfactant? So surfactant, this is nothing but this is the combination of protein, lipids, and one chemical is there. So this is the dipalmitoyl phosphatidyl choline, dipalmitoyl phosphatidyl choline. So the surfactant, this is nothing but this is the dipalmitoyl phosphatidyl choline, lipids, and some proteins. Okay, so this is the dipalmitoyl phosphatidyl choline and the lipids and some of the protein. So this is the surfactant. Okay, and beside these type 1 and type 2 pneumocytes, so type 1 and type 2 pneumocytes, they line the inner surface of the alveolus, and the lumen also contains some of these green color cells. So these are known as the macrophage, or these are the phagocytic cell. Such macrophage or the phagocytic cell which wash out the bacteria or the dust particles. Okay, and these cells are known as the dust cell. This cell, the macrophages, these are known as the dust cell. Okay, which engulf the incoming bacteria. Okay, so this is the structure of the alveolus. So today discussion part is the mechanism of breathing. mechanism of breathing. So in my last class, I have already told that the lungs which present inside the thoracic chamber. So this is my thoracic chamber and this is airtight chamber. This is the airtight chamber. Okay. So the whole body cavity which is known as coelom, the whole body cavity, this is known as coelom. Suppose that, so look at this picture, the very small picture. Suppose that this is the head and suppose that this is the body, head, okay. These are the limbs. So the whole body cavity, this is known as the coelom, which is known as coelom here. And the coelom again, it is divided into two parts because of the presence of muscular partition wall, which is known as the diaphragm. So because of the presence of diaphragm, the upper part, this is the thoracic chamber or the cavity, and the lower part, this is the abdominal cavity. So this is the abdominal cavity and the upper part, this is the thoracic cavity. So inside the thoracic cavity, there is our lungs. There is our lungs. Okay. Suppose that if you take the section like this, suppose that you cut like this, then what you find here? Suppose that if you cut this portion transversely, then you find, suppose that this is my thoracic wall. Suppose that this is my thoracic wall or the body wall. Okay, this is the thoracic cavity. Okay, so the back side we have the backbone, and front this is the sternum or the breastbone. The sternum or the breastbone. Suppose that this is the ventral portion, this is the sternum, and the back side, suppose that this is the vertebral column. Okay, the side it is covered by the ribs. So these are the ribs, it is covered by the ribs, and the lungs present at the middle. So this is the two lungs, right lungs and the left lungs. So two lungs are present inside the thoracic cavity here. Now internally, this is the chest wall, this is known as the chest wall. So the internally chest wall, it is covered by the membrane known as parietal pleura. Parietal pleura. And the lungs also covered by the outermost layer of the lungs, which is the visceral pleura. Visceral pleura. So you can say the lungs which is covered by pleural membrane. Okay, so the pleural membrane, which is two membranous structure, the outer membrane known as the parietal pleura, which present attached to the chest wall. Okay, chest wall or the body wall, and the lungs, the outermost covering of the lungs, which is the visceral pleura. So inner pleura which present around the lungs. So lungs which is covered by the visceral pleura. So in between parietal pleura and the visceral pleura, there is the fluid. There is the fluid, and these fluid which prevent the friction of the lungs, Okay, so this is the whole about of the thoracic chamber. So thoracic chamber, this is the airtight chamber. Anteriorly it is covered by neck and the shoulder. Posteriorly, which is covered by the diaphragm, muscular diaphragm partition wall present. At the front, the breastbone or the sternum present, and the dorsal side there is the vertebral column, and the side there is the ribs. So 12 pairs of ribs we have, and which forms a cage-like structure, and this is known as the rib cage. So suppose that the ribs number, so this is the sternum. Suppose that this is the sternum in the ventral side, dorsal side, this is the vertebral column. So this is the vertebral column, and the side, these are the ribs. So the rib number first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh. So these ribs, so first pair to seventh pair. So from first pair to seventh pair ribs, these first 7 pairs of rib, these are known as the true ribs. So these are known as true ribs. So true ribs means they connect both the dorsal side, the vertebral column, and the ventral side to the sternum or the breastbone. So these are the true ribs. But the rib number 7th, 8th, the ribs number 8th, 9th and 10th. So these 3 pairs of rib, they attach to the 7 pair of ribs. So these are known as the false rib. So these 3 ribs are known as the false ribs. And now the last 2 pair, 11th and 12th, these 2 pairs, 11th number and the 12th number ribs, these 2 ribs not attached to the sternum. That's why these 2 ribs are known as the floating ribs. So 12 pairs of ribs we have, which form a cage-like structure known as the rib cage. Okay, inside it our lungs present. So the thoracic chamber, which is airtight chamber, front or the ventral side, that is the sternum, side there is the ribs, the dorsal side, that is the vertebral column, and the anterior region, the neck and the shoulder, and the posterior region, that is the dome shaped diaphragm. So inside it our lungs present, lungs which is covered by the pleural membranes or the pleural membranes, which is the 2 membranous structure. Outer membrane is known as the parietal pleura, which attaches to the chest wall, and the inner, which is known as the visceral pleura, which cover the lungs. Okay, so now in between 2 ribs, the muscles are present. Okay, so in between 2 ribs, muscles are present, and these muscles are known as the intercostal muscles. Costal means ribs, in between 2 ribs, that's why this is known as the intercostal. So the muscles present in between 2 ribs, that's why these are known as the intercostal. Costal means ribs. Okay, so muscles are present, these are known as the intercostal muscle present in between 2 ribs, not only 2. So in between 2 ribs there is the muscles, and these muscles are known as the intercostal muscles. Such intercostal muscles, again these are also 2 types, external intercostal muscles. Such external intercostal muscles which run obliquely downward, and forward or inward, this is known as the external intercostal muscles. Okay, so another is known as the internal intercostal muscle. So internal intercostal muscles also run obliquely, but it run backwards or outward. That's why this is known as the internal intercostal muscle. So intercostal muscles, these are 2 types. One is the external intercostal muscles, another is the internal intercostal muscles. So intercostal muscles, these are present in between 2 ribs. Okay, so external intercostal muscles run obliquely downward and forward and inward, but the internal intercostal muscles run obliquely downward but backward or outward. Okay, so these are the 2 muscles. Internal intercostal muscles, it works when we respire in silence, in quiet manner. So quiet respiration, during quiet respiration, internal intercostal muscle works. So in quiet respiration, internal intercostal muscles work. This is very important. But the forceful respiration, the forceful respiration, this type of respiration, the forceful respiration, at that time the another two muscles also present. They are named as the scalens. These are known as the scalens, and another is the sternocleidomastoid. Sternocleidomastoid. Okay, sternocleidomastoid. Another is the sclerens. So sclerens and sternocleidomastoid, these two muscles, it additionally helping for the force respiration, okay, helping for the forced respiration. So how actually breathing occurs? So the mechanism of breathing you can study it under two heads. One is the inspiration, the intaking of air, known as the inspiration. Another is the outlet of air, the expelling of air, which is known as expiration. So intaking is known as the inspiration, and the outlet of air, the removing of air, which is known as the expiration. So the breathing, it is studied under two headings. One is the inspiration, another is the expiration. Okay, so when suppose that this is the diaphragm, suppose that this is your diaphragm here. Okay, suppose that this is the diaphragm. So at the time of inspiration, at the time of inspiration, the external intercostal muscle contract. Mind it. Okay, so at the time of inspiration, external intercostal muscle contract, but internal intercostal muscles relax. Okay, so what happened then? Because of the contraction of external intercostal muscles, the sternum or the rib cage, which move forward and outward, and the dome-shaped diaphragm, which start to flat. So this is the dome-shaped diaphragm. In inspiration, it moves like this. This is the movement of sternum, and the diaphragm which moves downward. That's why what happened? Now the volume of thoracic cavity becomes larger. It becomes large, or increase the thoracic cavity. The volume of thoracic cavity increases because of the movement of sternum outward and forward, and the diaphragm movement in lower side. Okay, which causes the increase of thoracic cavity. The pleural chamber or the pulmonary chamber, which is airtight chamber. So any changes occur in thoracic cavity, the reflection occurs in the pulmonary chamber. Okay, so when the thoracic chamber, the volume of thoracic chamber increases, the pressure inside the thoracic chamber goes down. So volume increase. Okay, that's why the space becomes large, more space available now. That's why the pressure inside the thoracic chamber goes down. Okay, as a result, the air or the atmospheric pressure inside the thoracic chamber, inside the pulmonary chamber goes down. goes down as compared to the outer atmospheric pressure. That's why the outer air automatically enter into nostril, then pharynx, then larynx, then trachea, then bronchus, primary, secondary, tertiary, terminal, then bronchioles, then alveolus. So the air automatically entering to the alveolus. Automatically the lungs filled up with the air, and this process is known as the inspiration. This process is known as the inspiration. Okay, so intaking of air is known as the inspiration. During the inspiration, the external intercostal muscle contract, but the external intercostal muscle contract, but the internal intercostal muscle relax. Because of the external intercostal muscles contraction, the sternum which moves forward, and the rib cage which moves outward, and the diaphragm which start to becomes flat, the cavity, the thoracic cavity which increases, the volume of thoracic cavity which increases, which causes the intrathoracic, the pressure of intrathoracic chamber goes down. As a result, the atmospheric air enter into lungs through nostril, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchus, bronchioles, and alveoli. Okay, and this is known as the inspiration. Okay, so inspiration process, this is the active process. It needs the energy. It needs the energy. That's why this is known as the active process. This is the active process. Now come to the expiration. Expiration means the expelling of air, the removing of air. Okay, so expiration. So during expiration, internal intercostal muscles contract, and the external intercostal muscles relax. So during expiration, internal intercostal muscles contract and external intercostal muscle relax. As a result, the ribs now it goes its original position. The ribs it move to the ribs which move to its original position. The flattened diaphragm which becomes dome shaped. Okay, so because of the contraction of internal intercostal muscles, the sternum which back to its original position, and the diaphragm also resume its original shape, means in the dome shaped. Okay, so the ribs and the sternum which move backward and inward, and the diaphragm which move upward and becomes dome shaped. Now the volume of the thoracic chamber reduce. So volume reduce means, so intrathoracic pressure which increases inside the thorax. Inside the thorax, the pressure will increase. As a result, automatically the air present inside the lungs which comes outside through the path alveolus, alveolar sac, alveolar duct, bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, terminal bronchi, tertiary, secondary, primary, and the bronchus, then the trachea, larynx, pharynx, then nasal chamber, and the nose and outside. Okay, so this is the path through which air comes out, and this process is known as the expiration. Okay, so this is the whole about of the mechanism of the breathing. Now we discuss about how the inspiration and expiration, it is regulated. Inspiration and expiration, it is regulated by two mechanisms. One is the neural mechanism, another is the chemical mechanism. So the regulation, the breathing mechanism, it is regulated by nerve system, the neural coordination or the neural regulation or the neural control. Another is the chemical control. So brain, the pons varoli, and suppose that this is the medulla oblongata. The pons varoli, it has the respiratory center and which is known as the pneumotaxic center, which is known as pneumotaxic center. And this is the suppose that medulla oblongata. So the dorsal side and lateral side, that is the expiratory center. The dorsal side, it has the expiratory center, and the ventral side, it has the inspiratory center. Okay. So now, so suppose that the expiratory center means the outlet of air, it is regulated by the pneumotaxic center. It is regulated by the pneumotaxic center. So the outlet of air, it is regulated by pneumotaxic center. So during outlet, this the expiratory center, it convey the information to the inspiratory center. Then the inspiratory center, which convey the information to the pneumotaxic center. So how actually it is coordinated here? Suppose that the inspiration, inspiration occurring now the inspiration information which goes to the pneumotaxic center. Now pneumotaxic center convey the information to the expiratory center. Now expiratory center convey the information through the nerve, the phaneric nerve, to the diaphragm, and other nerve to the thoracic muscles and the sternum. Okay, other muscles to the sternum for the expiration. So this nerve which, so expiratory center, so this nerve which contract the internal intercostal muscles as well as the diaphragm, as well as convey the information to the diaphragm. Okay, so now the expiration occurs. After expiration, this information also convey to the inspiratory center. The inspiratory center also convey the information to the diaphragm as well as external intercostal muscles. So now the external intercostal muscles which contract and the movement of sternum towards forward and the outward, and the diaphragm goes downward. The volume of thoracic chamber increases and which causes the inspiration. So inspiration, this information which convey to the pneumatic center through the nerve. Now pneumatic center relay the information to the expiratory center and expiration occurs. So this expiration also, the expiration center also regulated by another nerve which is the vagus nerve. This is the vagus nerve. The wall of trachea, the wall of bronchus, which is provided with a mechanoreceptor, or which is also known as the proprioceptor, or which is known as the stretch receptor. So the wall of trachea and bronchus which is provided with stretch receptor, and such stretch receptor known as the proprioceptor. Okay, so at the time of expiration, when the air entering into the lungs, the stretching of bronchus and trachea occurs. The stretching of bronchus and the tracheal wall, which stimulate the stretch receptor or the proprioceptor. Okay, so stretching of proprioceptor, which convey the information to the expiratory center, okay. So which convey known as the Hering-Burger reflex. So what is Hering-Burger reflex? The wall of trachea, the wall of bronchus, that is the stretch receptor. So such stretching of the stretching of the trachea and the bronchus, which convey the information to the expiratory center through vagus nerve, and this is known as the Hering-Burger reflex. This is known as the Hering-Burger reflex. So this is about the very simple explanation for the higher secondary student. Okay, but you will discuss this portion in higher classes. Okay, now so this is the one type of neural coordination. The breathing also regulated by some of the chemicals like carbon dioxide. If the carbon dioxide concentration decreases, the breathing also decreases, the rate of breathing also decreases. If the carbon dioxide concentration decreases from the optimum level, then which causes the apapnea. This is the cessation of breathing, apapnea. Okay. Now, but the increasing of carbon dioxide concentration, which causes the higher rate of breathing or the respiration. If the partial pressure of oxygen goes down, then hypoxia causes, the deficiency of oxygen in blood, hypoxia, this condition, and this condition which causes the increasing of the rate of respiration or the breathing. Okay, and the partial pressure, the high partial pressure of oxygen, which causes the reduce the rate of breathing, as well as the pH of blood. If the pH of blood goes down, then which causes the increase the rate of respiration or the breathing, as well as different other factors also responsible for the regulation of breathing, like temperature. The increasing of temperature also increase the rate of breathing or the respiration. So this is whole about of the mechanism of breathing. We studied the mechanism of breathing under two heads. One is the inspiration and this is the expiration, and the regulation of breathing, this is the neural regulation, and some of the factors like the chemical regulation. Okay, so you have to remember some of the important things like dust cells, type 2 pneumocyte cell which secrete the surfactant, this is important, and the internal intercostal muscles which is responsible for the quiet respiration, the forced respiration. There is additional two muscles, the scalens and the sternocleidomastoid. These two muscles are responsible for the forced respiration, and here you have to remember this reflex, the Hering-Burger reflex. This reflex is very important, Hering-Burger reflex. Okay, and you have to remember this center, the pneumotaxic center present in pons varoli. Okay, below the pons varoli there is the medulla oblongata in brain. So this is whole about of the mechanism of breathing as well as regulation of breathing. In my next class I will discuss about the capacity of lungs. the capacity and volume of lungs. You have to understand what is the meaning of capacity and volumes of lungs in details. Thank you for watching.